Some of you know that I'm a big Westside Gunn fan. I love almost every project besides like 2 or 3 out of 20. Last year I released a video about Westside Gunn where I detailed why he's one of my favorite artists, what he brings to the table, and why I enjoy his music. I was planning to drop the video when his new album at the time, And Then You Pray For Me, came out, but I ran out of time and I had to drop it before the album, and good on me for doing so because that album was not exactly received well. As big a fan as I am, and as much as I wanted to enjoy this album in its entirety, I just couldn't. I've been the scarecrow standing in the field before with some of my other Westside Gunn takes, but this time I knew it wasn't going to be just me. And clearly, like you saw, there are other people who are not a fan of this album. And because it's been over 6 months, I think I finally have a solidified opinion of the project. I think this album is downright bad, because it doesn't have any cohesive sense to it. Not that a lot of other Westside Gunn albums do, it's just that when you look at a project like Fly God, Supreme Blientele, Hermes 8, or Pray for Paris, which this is supposed to be the successor of, this is in a different league in terms of lack of pacing and cohesion. And this album being based on Pray for Paris is crazy for me to think about, because how did he, on his own, not realize what made Pray for Paris so great? Pray for Paris' biggest strength is its cohesion, and every song flows into the next, even after he had to remove 1 or 2 of them after being DMCA'd or copyright. You get the idea. Something happened. You get the idea. Every song here had a similar sound, so when one transitions to the next, you're not wondering, wait, what the fuck is going on? Last song was drumless and felt like we're walking through the Louvre? I don't know, it's French. Who gives a shit?
Louvre.
The last song was drumless and felt like that French museum, and this one sounds like we're racing shit boxes in downtown Atlanta. The other thing is that Pray for Paris felt like, because it was going for a certain vibe, it was controlled, and there were people who knew better, and there were quality control on deck, whereas this feels like Westside is just surrounded by yes men, and if you take one look at his Twitter, or Instagram really, you'll know that's exactly right. Not only that, it was a concise project, where one of the other notable problems with this album is the bloat. This album is 21 tracks long, clocking in over an hour and 15 minutes. And while I won't give other artists a chance with that amount of time, I would happily give that time to Westside Gunn until I realize halfway through that this is not the album I was hoping for. Let's take it from the top. This album is 21 tracks long. I loved 8 tracks and enjoyed 3 others, but didn't love those. That's anywhere from a 38 to 46% score based on number of tracks I enjoyed. I want to make this distinction right away though, because with a lot of other Gunn albums, I don't love every track, but the tracks I don't like aren't bad. They're usually just not something I love to listen to. The tracks I don't like on here, they're actually bad, and they have a lot of problems. The album starts out rough with Fly God Did, another intro track with A.A. Rashid. Whatever, it's fine, move on. Mama's Prime Time is a contender for one of the best Westside Gunn songs ever. Probably the best opener track after the intro he could have chosen. I just wish the Denzel Curry feature was on a beat like this and not where it ended up, but we'll get to it. I actually enjoyed the 3rd track, Costas. I think Benny flowed pretty well here, unlike the very similar sounding Red Death from Hermes 10. Conway showed up here. I think his flow on this is unrivaled. My only complaint is, where was this Conway the Machine for over half of 2023? Clearly he was out sick during Won't He Do It and the 4 other projects he made last year. 1989 is the first downright tragedy of the album, because, okay, Mama's Primetime starts off with a gritty energy, and then Costas keeps the pace, and it picks up a little bit, and it feels like the album is clearly ramping up, and then just starts off with this subtle bass line, and the momentum is just ruined by 1989. The song has multiple points where Westside Gunn and Stove God Cooks are competing to see who can be more offbeat.
If ain't no switch on it, that ain't gunplay.
Alright, well, sing on beat, my boy.
I might drop 100 bricks on your block.
Hey, you pray for Paris, then you pray for me, and then you pray for this album to get better, dog. What was that? And then the rapping and the beat are like in a 12-round heavyweight fight over who can be worse. I normally like when Westside Gunn do that pitch down thing, but it don't really work if you don't rap. And it don't really work if you toe the line of being on beat and not being on beat. This Stove Guy verse could have probably worked on a different beat, and if it wasn't a whole verse. I think him singing that 1000 was kind of charismatic and could have been entertaining, but it drug on way too long, and then he got off beat with that. Like, bro, this is not a hard beat to stay on beat with.
And the other thing, personally, I'm never a fan of down-pitching vocals. If your vocals aren't good enough at their normal pitch, you need to not make this song. That goes for my other favorite artists too. Side in Selfridges is back up to top tier quality. Gunn's verse is great, I love the alliteration, and his flow is varied, which you'll realize is something you didn't know you needed until it is taken away further along in the album, but we'll get to that. Kitchen Lights is a contender for the best song Westside Gunn has ever made. It's at least in the top 5 or top 10. It's that good to me, zero complaints. Like God 2X has a nice relaxed boom bap beat. Westside Gunn's verse here is good, and no complaints here either. Cue the immediate quality decline of the next track, Dunhill. This song just sounds like 13 years out of date. It sounds like a Chief Keef leftover that even a good producer would throw away. Get a sound engineer to mix this shit, man. Actually, maybe you shouldn't, because I think they'd be in a noose by the end of the album. Rick Ross could not save this song. The next song, House of Glory, in my opinion, is great. I think this is one of the rare cases where trying weird shit on this album actually worked. I like Stove God's delivery here, and I think Westside's verse is funny. I also really like the fake stop before Westside Gunn starts his verse. It's just a good song. And the RZA beat, despite being drumless and extremely subtle, I love this beat. Immediately after this song ends, we go right into JD Wrist, which is a contender for the worst and most outdated song on this album, besides 1989 and a few others. Stove God Cooks tries to save the song. I think if we have to rank the verses here, he definitely has the best. But the Trapaholics ad-libs make me want to kill myself. It gets in the way of hearing the verses, it cuts out the beat. I don't like it. Westside Gunn's flow here is the usual Westside Gunn trap flow, and if you know what that means, it means it's tolerable the first time and then becomes exponentially worse. He also only has one trap flow. ST-Knack gives a contender for ST-Knack's worst verse of all time here. He needs to stop whispering. If he fixes the delivery, it's still not a good verse. The next track, Disgusting, is kind of just whatever, really. Gunn's verse is the usual Gunn trap flow, and Giggs is more or less just kind of there. He showed up because he was paid. The beat is one of the few trap beats in this album where I think it doesn't really need to be mixed too much. It's kind of just already fine. The next track, Chloe, has a great beat, and it's just ruined mostly by Westside Gunn's verse. The song after that, LL Bool Gun, is so bad. Oh man. This beat sounds horrendous, and Westside's flow is the same as usual. This might be the slowest trap song I've ever heard. Babylon Biss is up next, and thank God it is. This song carries the second half of the album, without a doubt. This beat is one of the best on the album too, right next to Kitchen Lights for me. Shout out J.R. Swifts for that. Westside Gunn's verse is good, and Stove God is here, I suppose. He talks about being made into an art piece by West, which is really funny because Stove doesn't release music, and no, I'm not talking about that Kitchen Walls album that was allegedly secretly released. You know, it doesn't count. If I have to dig around online to find your album and then spend money on it after finding it, I'm not.
Oh yeah, man, the secret album, it's in my ass. You gotta reach your hand in,
Keisha Plum is on this song, is something no one is happy about. This song is followed up by the single biggest disappointment on the entire project, in my opinion, Ultra Griselda with Denzel Curry. This beat is horrible. Westside needs to undiscover Miguel de Plug as soon as possible. Denzel tries his best, and he kind of actually makes the first half of the track decent. The only problem is, this chorus is atrocious. Jalen Rose is up next with the first Derringer beat here, I think. It sounds out of the ordinary, and the 808 drums don't really fit. Boldy tries his best, and I think the song works. This is one of those songs that I like it, but I don't love it. Steve and Joni through Freddie J's is the same old, more unmixed Westside Gunn trap. Throw it all out. The Revenge of Flip's Leg is one of the best songs here, and Rome Street saves this last little trek of the album with an incredible verse. And the last track tries something new with K-Sai over a drumless beat. In my opinion, it doesn't really work, but this is actually bearable. And besides a handful of tracks, like the ones I enjoyed and some other ones, this album just sounds old. So yeah, a bloated fucking project. If I were to shorten this album, I would make it about 11 tracks. Keep the intro, keep the title track. I think the title track is a moment where trying stuff out actually worked enough to keep here. I would switch out the order between the title track and Revenge of Flip's Leg to have it be Revenge of Flip's Leg be the closer, because in my opinion, it makes a little more sense. Kind of like how Steve Bear from Awesome God 2 was, but without the unnecessary skit over half the runtime. I know I just killed you all with a super dense album review, but I promise I'm going somewhere with this. The great tracks on this album are great. Like some of his best material great. And this, in my opinion, shows that he needs to get rid of the yes men and stick to what he's good at. For Westside Gunn, it really is that simple. Stop rapping about visible, violent, vitriolic, vibrant sex. I don't want to hear it. At least put it over a good beat, like House of Glory, or Dance Floor Love, Love You from Hermes 7.
If you rap on this, bro, please rap on this. Why aren't you rapping? Why aren't you rapping? This beat is so good.
Fucking even Liz loves Luger. Westside can try and make trap rap, but at the end of the day, I don't think it will ever be his strength. The best songs on this project are not trap oriented, and there is definitely a reason for that. He just needs to do a project with people in his circle, like Derringer, Conductor, Sadhu Gold, Nicholas Craven, Alchemist, Camouflage Monk, and etc. Throw on some features, put some people who don't seem like they would work well together, and just call it a day. You know? We look at Pray for Paris, tracks like $500 Ounces, Rock Marciano and Freddie Gibbs, and Westside Gunn on the same track. No one would be able to do that besides him. The reason I bring all of this up is that despite how people took the album, clearly it did not stop him, and he's been working on new music. And I saw a song a month or so ago posted on Billy Esco's YouTube channel. If you don't know Billy Esco, he's the guy who sings the hook on Westside Gunn's 327. He has a few songs with Westside Gunn, but he dropped the snippet for the song Kenny Omega with Stove God Cooks and Westside Gunn, and phew, I think this track is okay. My comment on the video says this is terrible, and that was on my first listen, but let me elaborate. I'll play a few seconds. So right away the beat sounds like Red Death from Hermes 10, which is a good track, I suppose. This song just has a lot of issues that are present on And Then You Pray For Me, notably sounding unmixed. And for someone who prides himself in being a curator, you can't be both unmixed, unmastered, and unpolished while trying to give off the luxurious, grimy vibe. You have to pick one, and I just don't know if it's what he should be going for. Stove God Cooks gives a decent verse here. It just doesn't seem like anything special, and he's kind of just riding the beat. Westside Gunn's weakness, once again, hooks and choruses, and on this one it's more apparent than ever. He just says Kenny Omega with his little deep-pitched voice effects, and if this were on an album, I'm skipping it every time. He says it over and over again.
Kenny Omega, 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 Kenny Omega.
The issue I have with this hook going into Westside's verse, though, is that he starts the verse and he sounds off beat. West's verse isn't even that great. A lot of the lines don't rhyme, and then after that lackluster verse, he just does the Kenny Omega thing again.
Kenny Omega, 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 Kenny Omega.
What a fucking travesty of a song that is. It's somehow better than most of the material on And Then You Pray For Me. So I'm making this video because I think we need an intervention. I think we as the fans need to tell him to lock in and make something actually good. The Kenny Omega song has the first steps of being an okay track, but it misses the mark. But it's so close. It's like if you get a 45 on a class where a 50 is just good enough, it's almost there. And I don't know what Westside Gunn is going to do next. But if he keeps making stuff like this, I don't know if I want to stick around to find out. That's all I've got. See ya.